Happy Friday. Happy new moon in Gemini. Happy new sun in Gemini. It's going to be a nice weekend, you guys. I really want to invite you this weekend to take advantage of this new moon energy, take advantage of this lightening of the energy. You may already be noticing there's a shift in the feeling of, I don't know, what I feel more airy, I guess is the best way to describe it. So recognizing and remembering that because today is the new moon, we want to set intentions of what we're desiring. And I think what I want to focus on for this new moon is intentions around my relationships, intentions around new relationships is where I'm at, because I've released some relationships that were sort of toxic. And so my prayer is that they get replaced by or filled up with relationships that are more balanced. And then that also includes the relationship with myself, that my relationship with myself is truthful and balanced. You know, Gemini energy, it's interesting because sometimes Geminis get a bad rap, but because they can be two-faced is the idea, or because it's the twin energy. And I actually really dig Geminis. Most of them are really, the way that I've aligned with them anyway, is that they're really smart. They think outside the box. They're also resourceful. And so that energy of Gemini, and they'll see both sides of things. So that's the way that I look at Gemini. It's sort of forward thinker, very open-minded, sees things from different perspectives, great ideas. So utilize that's the kind of energy that we're going to be feeling the next couple days. Big ideas, big, like people are going to be thinking big. So if you're looking into wanting guidance in your career sector, setting intentions about being able to implement big ideas, and there's something too that you're finding that you're needing to have innovation around, that there may be innovation things that come in, innovative ideas for your business, innovative ideas for relationship. And also, having those ideas, setting the intention that you not only want to have the ideas, but you want to implement the ideas, right? Gary Vee says, he has I'm going to paraphrase what he says, but the gist is that, I have 1 million ideas a day. I'll give those ideas away because, who's going to implement them, right? So there's no point in having this grand idea if it doesn't come to fruition. So those are some things to be mindful of as you're setting intention in this Gemini energy. I want to be able to set an intention that's attainable, but that's also a little bit outside of my comfort zone, right? So remembering that the full moon is today, and then we also have the energy of this full moon for intention setting and planting seeds for the next 14 days, really. So you can this is the way that I look at it. If I'm setting my intention, I recognize actually the potency of the the potency of the new moon actually comes a little bit after the new moon, because there's a momentum that's building up into the full moon. And so the energy is, I'm going to set the intention in that time of the energy. So for instance, let's say I want to set an intention that, it doesn't even really matter. Again, my intention is that I want to create and cultivate new relationships. I set that intention, and then what I want to do is, I guess the best way to describe it is to sort of marinate on the intention, right? So then tomorrow I'm going to celebrate that I set that intention, and I'm going to be excited or looking forward to how it's going to show itself, and open to signs, and being mindful of what the intention that I've set. So not so much waiting, like going, okay, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? But being mindful of the intention, and so that it moves through everything that I do, right? All the actions that I take. So that's the goal of the intent of an intention that we set at any time, right? In the idea of the law of attraction, cause and effect is intention plus inspired action equals your desired effect. So your intention's always first, and we always act from intention. So to utilize the energy of the new moon is to recognize that our intention setting process is in concert with the cosmos, you see. That's the reason why, why does it matter if you use the new moon? Why don't you just, I was setting intentions anyway. Well, I want to be able to harness what's available to me, right? And so why not? Why not use it? Why not experiment with it? There's an idea that I feel that comes through with spirit now saying, please use it. This is what it's for. Have fun with it. Be joyful around the process of what intention you're going to set. And if you're in a space where you're not feeling so much joy, and I know that could be happening sort of collectively on a different level right now, obviously, because a lot of us are going through, certain trials and tribulations, because our world was sort of rocked by this, outside crazy microscopic thing. That can you make a commitment to yourself that you're going to be okay in this process, and that you still get to utilize the full moon energy or the new moon energy in a way that's sacred, right? So if you can't bring it to fun, because joy is a high vibration, that's why spirit comes in and says have fun with things, because there's no resistance in that. There's resistance in these sort of fear vibrations and however these lower quote unquote vibrations show up. And so the higher the vibration, the less the resistance is basically the way that I translate it. So if you can't come into a place of joy, can you release from the place of fear? Can you be in neutral energy? Can you say, can you be in curiosity energy? That's another thing that Gemini energy provides us. Gemini is very curious. Can I be open? Can I just see? I don't know. Let's see what this wacky chick Stacy's got to say. Let's see what these people let me just experiment with it. And that you have nothing to lose within that. I have nothing to lose by setting an intention and seeing if it comes to fruition. I have nothing to lose to recognize that, sure, there's obviously something going on in the cosmos. There's obviously ebb and flow. I mean, we recognize the energy of the moon changes the tides of the ocean. So it's there, it's palpable, it's something. And if I'm part of it, then let me utilize it, right? Let me try it. Let me just try it and see what happens. And then what's really beautiful about that is that it becomes, sweet, I'm getting an energetic, I'm getting emotional about that. And it's because it becomes sacred, and it becomes something that no one can take away from me. Things are being taken away from us in a lot of levels. And I don't look at it like that, but I know a lot of people are feeling that. And that this sacred energy is not ever taken away from me. It's always available. And so I want to utilize it, recognize it, be grateful for it, and experiment with it. And know that it's mine. Like, we each have this. It's not separate. It's not me saying to you, only I can do a full moon ritual and you need to pay me, which is what, if you watched my last live, I was talking about this person that had, said that, the only way that I was going to be released from my grandfather's curse was to pay this person. No, we each have our own divine sovereign connection that we get to decide how it looks, what it feels like, how I want to respond to it, what kind of relationship. So isn't that interesting that I'll even take that a step further in my intention setting, is that my relationship, not only with others, but with self and with spirit, is going to become more sacred and more connected and more joyful. So that's going to be, I want to, just because it's Friday, I want to recognize that this weekend is a beautiful weekend energetically. In the astrology, I've heard astrologers say that this is the best weekend of the year astrologically. So take it, recognizing that, and even if you're watching this on Saturday or even on Sunday, recognize that and invite yourself to experience it. Can you feel there's a shift? You can feel, I feel people aren't quite as scared. People are a little bit more like, okay. And I'll tell you what I feel. I feel a sense of gratitude because no one that I know has there's someone that I know that knows someone that had the virus, but I'm so blessed that no one that I know personally, everyone is healthy. And everyone's not just doesn't have the virus, everyone's healthy. That's a beautiful thing, right? So I want to be able to celebrate that a little bit this weekend instead of being afraid of what's going to happen or punishing myself. Oh God, or being, one of the things I noticed that I was experiencing when I go out, because I work from home, I don't go out a lot anyway. And so I'm going out and I'm like, am I doing the mask thing right? Are you supposed to wear the mask? And I'm like, then I drive by and if someone's wearing a mask in a car and I'm like, now that's stupid. I know you don't need to wear a mask in the car. Like, why are they wearing the mask in the car? Is there a reason why? Right? And so you're going into these sort of like, I was like, am I navigating through the world in a proper way now? Because the rules changed, right? And I think everybody's kind of gotten the idea of like, all right, either you're going into really a space of resistance around it and hunkering down into your space of resistance, or you're kind of getting into the flow of things, right? And looking things like, okay, we can see, it feels like maybe we're going to be okay. Maybe I can let up on my fear, maybe I can turn the TV off for a minute. There's not all this new news anymore, right? So that's happening astrologically also. Basically what I'm saying is that what's happening collectively, or what's going on for the world, in the way that we're seeing this light heart a little bit lightening, is because of the shift in the astrology as well. That's partly to do with it. So can you feel that vibe? Can you get with that vibe? Are you experiencing that? Maybe you're listening to this and going, well, that's bullshit. I feel like crap right now. And I don't feel lighter, and I don't feel better, and I don't feel hopeful. So notice that about, and maybe, why, what is that about? Maybe you can invite yourself to feel a little bit better. So remembering also too, you notice I'm taking some deep breaths in. I notice that when I do these lives, I get triggered a little bit. There's adrenaline that comes. And so I have to make sure, and I get excited too, and spirit gets excited to come through and wanting, there's messages that come through that want to be heard, right? Expressed. And so I have to be mindful to calm myself and ask spirit also to come through in a way that's not so excited, that's a little bit calmer. And so to remember that about yourself too, is that you will be triggered. And are you rushing? Is adrenaline rushing through your body? Are you feeling that angst or anxiety? And where is it from? And why are you allowing it? And is it serving you? And by just taking a couple deep breaths in, and this is a physiological response to breathing deeply, that your body will shift into and go out of the adrenalized state and shift into a space of calm, which is oxytocin and dopamine, and understanding that your body's, the response, the anxiety that you might be feeling, and I know that there's people that are feeling anxiety right now, is a physiological response to a thought. So if you're thinking fearful thoughts over and over and over and over again, and your body is in this sympathetic nervous, the sympathetic nervous system is freaking out because you're in fear, you're going to get these adrenaline surges, right? And it's going to show up as anxiety. So if you can recognize, my thoughts are going to kind of fuck with me, but I can breathe, right? I can take deep breaths. I can take a minute and calm, and then you'll start to notice the body will shift into the parasympathetic nervous system. You have to train your body to do that, though. You remember, anxiety is fear repeated over a period of time, right? This is the way that I align with it. You trained your body unknowingly in that response, and so you have to retrain the body through deep breathing, through mindfulness, through all these things that we talk about. So if you need help with that, I do have free resources on my website. If you go to the link in my bio, there's a bunch of links within there to there's free resources and those kinds of things that if you need help, like with meditation. But I just want to remind people about that, and I want you to remember that you have an invitation to be calm during a storm. You have an invitation to give yourself permission to relax instead of being stressed out. That you get to invite yourself to do that, and you're the one who has to take the invitation, and you're the one who has to implement the strategies. No one can do it for you. No one in your house is gonna make you feel better. No one, they may for a minute by something that they say, and even me, like you could check in with me and you'll feel better as we're having this conversation, and you'll feel maybe hope and you'll get clarity, and then you get off of the live, you get off of, like if you're talking with me on a one-on-one, you get off of the phone, and then you have to go back about your daily life, and that you get to choose how you show up. And a person outside of you who's acting like a fool, we don't have to take that on, right? We get to choose how to respond to also what's going on externally. I'm not going to take that on. I'm going to give that right back to them. That's not mine to carry, right? And we have to remember that, because a lot of us are trained, to think that their problem is my problem, or that it's my responsibility to make sure that they're okay, or they're projecting their shit onto me because they're not taking responsibility for what they're doing, and then I'm trying to get them to figure out that they need to take responsibility, and then we're in this fight of resistance. Like, you know what? I don't care if you take responsibility. That's on you, right? But I'm not going to take responsibility, and I'm not going to take it on. And I have a boundary. I have a line that I draw, and I'm telling this to myself too, because I get that. Like I think empaths, I always say that an unrealized empath is a codependent, and the empath and the narcissist are magnetic towards each other. So a lot of times people that are overgivers or empathic tend to feel depleted and feel like a victim, because they've been taking other people's stuff on, taking on the responsibility of someone who's a fuck up. Right? And it's like, how can you be, and then feeling badly about it. It's so interesting how we'll do that. We'll align with people who are not for our greatest good, and then try to get them to fit into what our greatest good is. That's like, well, why are you trying to do that? What are you doing? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that it's not going to work. That will never happen, because those people by their nature are going to resist. Because if they take, it's just the nature of the way that relationship shows up. And so we have to set an intention. Again, going back to what the intention that I'm going to set for the new moon is, how am I showing up in relationships? And that my prayer and what I'm interested in is having relationships where the giving and the receiving is balanced. Yes. And as an empath, it really is not easy, and as empaths, well, the empaths have to be mindful not to turn into victims, because what an empath will do is go, oh, well, I'm an empath and I'm just so sensitive. Don't make that the excuse not to be strong. The empath has to show up and say, I always say, my empathy, my empathic nature is my superpower. And that because I know that about myself, I'm mindful, and I utilize it in a way that is intentional, right? So I don't go into victim mode anymore because I don't want to hang my hat on that idea of what an empath is. I think empaths are going to save the world. See, as I cry, that's the empath, right? Empaths are going to save the world. The challenge with the empath is that they go into the space of like, oh, I understand, I recognize I'm an empath. I recognize that's my superpower and I use it for good. And I don't allow the narcissist, we'll call it that kind of person, the user, the abuser, to abuse my empathy. I get to cut that off. That's my responsibility because they're going to keep trying. Are you kidding? They want more of this. Of course they want more of this, right? Of course they want more of you. Of course the empath's nature is divine, and they'll utilize it and use it, and so the goal, I think if an empath and an empath can come together, that's actually a really beautiful thing. And it doesn't happen. I think it happens more if I were to kind of think about it. It happens more to people who are self-realized. I think a person who understands that they're an empath and another person that understands that they're an empath and they've been fucked over before, right? They'll come together because they know each other and then they can create a safe place. But the only way that happens, I feel, is that if there's a realization of the empathy of the, and we all have, a lot of us have empathy, but empath takes it sort of like empathy on steroids, right? That's the way that I say it. That the empath has to have that realization and has to say no to a lot of the person who shows up as the addict or the narcissist. And so that's my prayer, is that, if it's someone that comes in and relates with me, that there are more empaths that come in, whatever that looks like. But again, I want to reiterate, if you are an empath, if you align as an empath, and then I hear, well, what's an empath? An empath is a person who feels other people's feelings. If you go a step further than that, the way that I actually would say it is an empath is a person who feels other people's energy. It's not just feelings, because the feeling is the vibrational frequency of the energy, right? But the feeling itself is the energy. Does that make sense? So the empath is feeling the energy, which then is translated into emotion. Okay? So as an empath, what I get to do in my daily life is I can feel people when they get on the phone. I can feel their energy, right? It shows up as how they behave. It shows up, and I can feel people's who are they're attached to also, their lover or their friend or their mother or their father. I can feel into that. So that's what an empath can do. The challenge with an unrealized empath is that they think that if they make everyone else happy, okay, I'm an empath. I don't know it. It shows up as codependent. I'm in a space of people and I can feel there's funky energy. And I'm like, man, if they feel good, then I'll feel good, because I'm an empath and I can only feel good if everyone else is feeling good, right? So then I try to make everybody feel good. And then guess what happens? You feel like shit because everybody feels good, but they've left because they've used up your energy, and you're stuck with the codependent who keeps taking, right? Well, I'm not happy. Well, God, I better make you happy. Well, then, okay, then they're happy for a minute and then they're not happy again. And then they're using, and then they're abusing, and then they're, and then the empath shows up as the victim and as needy, which is the codependent. So as a realized empath, I'm not letting anybody take advantage of my energy. But at the nature of the empath, though, the energy, that it's almost like the empath goes, here I am, take advantage of my energy, right? So there's these people that come in like a moth to a flame that want to use you, and it can show up as sort of feeling like, ooh, these people like me, and they really, just because of the nature of it, and they're not even doing it consciously, they don't know how to set boundaries, right? So you've got these people that come in that are overstepping boundaries. And then you're like, well, hold on a minute. I can't create a boundary because I'm an empath. or because an empath, which is really what a codependent would say, not a truly realized empath. Empath energy says, well, I can't create a boundary because if I create a boundary, then that's going to hurt their feelings, and then they're going to feel icky, which means I'm going to feel icky. I don't want to feel like shit, so I'm not going to do the boundary. But we recognize that that's a sticky situation to get ourselves in, because then we go into the addict codependent. Okay, so I know that's kind of a long explanation, but if you can recognize, if you go into a room and a lot of people who have anxiety are empaths, because you go into a big place and you're all of a sudden you're getting hit with everybody's vibrational frequencies that's feeling as feelings, and you get overloaded. And so once you get overloaded, then that shows up as anxiety, because you don't understand that you need to protect yourself because you're an empath. So boundaries, protection, empath. I'm an empathic warrior. I'm not an empathic victim. I will not be a victim of my empathy. That's my superpower. I want to read what this says. The accuracy. Oh, thank you, honey. And what's really cool about this is that there's a comment that was said that what I'm saying is accurate, is that once we know this, once we have the information, and I think that's what I am here to do, is to provide energetic information so that you understand how things work energetically. And then once you have the understanding, then you can implement new strategies and become more empowered, right? That's the goal. Is that I want you to walk through life, and here comes the empathic teacher again. I start to cry. I get so overwhelmed with what I want for the world, how I want the world to heal. And I don't want to come across sappy, but energy moves through and I just have to honor it. Is that if we can, as empaths and as healers and as lovers of life and lovers of people, and no matter how they show up, right, wanting more and better for our world. If empaths become empowered, shit's gonna go down. And I can tell you, like, if I think about some really, really, like Oprah Winfrey is, like, to me, the archetype of empath and what she did with it, right? And everybody can have opinion about her or whatever, but that if we can take ourselves and rise to the occasion, and really show up in whatever that looks like for you, even if it's just not even if it's just the best thing, like if you're an empathic mom and you have an empathic child and you can teach your empathic child the power of the empathy, that to me is, that's a superpower. I'm telling you. If you've been told, how many of you have been told you're too sensitive? If you've ever been told you're too sensitive, you're probably an empath. And I always say, and I was told that forever, you're too sensitive. You take things too personally. Well, it's because I feel energy and I feel it deeply. And before I was doing this full time, I was in corporate America, and that was, something that I got told a lot by mostly men. Not that I'm dissing men, but it's the truth. And my sensitivity is my superpower. And now that I know that, that's how I make my living. It's my life. It's my livelihood. It's my superpower. So I want to invite you to also recognize, like, maybe your sensitivity is also your superpower. And the same thing with your children. We don't want to raise children that are meek and feel like a victim. We want to, and because sometimes being nice or being open, right, being loving, being empathic, being empathetic shows up as weakness. And we have to flip that shit around. I will not be a victim of my empathy. I will not. If you don't hear anything else in this and you're an empath, just please really, really take that to heart and make it your, make it your strength, let it move you into a space of empowerment. Listen to this, right? How do I make it my strength is what I hear. You can go into a room and there's 5 people in the room And if you've practiced your empathy, you know exactly all of which ones you want to talk to, which ones are full of shit before they even open their mouth. That's the power of empathy. And I think that's maybe, if we go into some, some Piscean age conspiracy theories, that's the reason why we were shut down and we were told that we needed to do certain things a certain way, because if we have that sovereign energy and we recognize how powerful we actually are, because how many times have you said, I knew there was something weird with that person. I knew something was up with them. And you didn't follow your hunch because you hadn't been told that your empathy was your superpower, because you hadn't been told that you can actually read energy, right? Because you hadn't been told that you have this capability of this intuitive knowing that's actually the biggest gift that we've been given in our human capacity, and that we haven't been taught to hone that skill. We've been taught just to hone the mind, and in a very calculated way, not to hone the heart. You can see the writing on the wall. So what's beautiful now is that in the Aquarian age, the age of technology, we all have access to this understanding, and that you need to decide what that looks like for you. How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? I went so far down the rabbit hole that I now do it as a living. And, but I recognize the practical aspects of it. I don't sit here and just eat bonbons and, talk to spirit. I know I have to be on the material plane. I was talking with a client yesterday, I think, and I was talking about how, the psychics, back in the days when I first started going to psychics, and I don't align myself with a psychic, but we'll just say, that's how I got to where I am. As I was, I've been called a psychic. I worked on a psychic hotline. You'd go to a psychic, and the psychics, and normally they're female, right? Or the majority of them are. And she's all fucked up, right? My friends and I went to the psychic, and we actually learned a lot from her. But man, her life was screwed up. She was always something wrong with her car. There was this, why am I taking advice from this person who doesn't have their shit together? How am I taking, and these, so a lot of times a psychic will show up in this, and I don't know so much anymore, and I think with what's going on now too, people are seeing people's bullshit a lot more. But how do I take advice from a person whose life is messed up? So I have to practice what I preach, right? I have to show up. I have to do the work. A lot of people that do these kinds of things are great advice givers and great, prophesizers, is that the right word? They can see things in the future, right? But their presence and the way that they live is totally screwed up. So that's not me. I like living in the world. I like hanging out with people. I like to smoke pot. I like to drink beer. I love to sing. I love to dance. I want to be in the world, right? And I want to do it in a way that serves me best, that then I also, because me sitting here and not doing anything isn't going to affect change either, right? If I'm just giving advice. But if I go out into the world and I'm in that room and I'm reading those people, but I'm also not just reading people, I'm showing up in my energy, that changes the dynamic. And maybe someone goes, right? Maybe I can change that person, and change is not even the right word, but just to be in the presence of that person in a way, because I feel good, that gives them an invitation. That's why I do these lives. That's why I do these recordings, right? Is then because I want to give you the invitation to try it on, right? And if my life's all screwed up, then you're like, well, why would I want to try that on? Because you're not practicing what you're preaching, sister. And this is the age of Aquarius too, is practice what you preach. If someone, like, I'm not, there's some people that, and we all have that story, these yogis and gurus, right? And they're like, wow, it's like you are totally off your fucking rocker, but you're telling me I'm supposed to be doing this and it's going to make my life better. Nah, I'm not buying it. So that's why, as we go into this reading, it's funny as how I end up talking a long time, which my intention is only to do like 15 minutes. Anyway, Spirit has a lot to say, and so do I. So let's do a reading around that. And I want to just invite the empath to recognize that what your warrior spirit is. What does that look like? We playing a victim does not serve anyone, and especially not you. So all right, so let's see. So setting your intentions, remembering, take what works, leave what doesn't. Always be discerning. If it doesn't align with you, you're not into it, that's good. That's good. Be open, be curious, and set your intention on what it is that you're desiring to know about. And then let's see what the cards say. Remember, sometimes this is more of a collective kind of reading. So if it doesn't align with you, that may be why. And even if you're not watching this live, if you're hearing the message and you align with it, it's for you. That's how spirit works. That's how the energy of the universe works, the cosmos works, right? We align with a certain vibrational frequency. We ask for something, and then we get the message, and then the question becomes, are you receiving it? So sometimes, and even if you say you're a person who just happens upon this, don't have any idea who Stacey Justice is, what is this chick? This is probably a message for you. That's what I love about this work. That's my favorite part. It's never boring, right? All right, Spirit, let's see what we got. I'm using tarot cards, Rider-Waite deck. So this is about building. So remembering and understanding about the idea of that this is a full moon. What are you building, right? What are you? And he is very interesting. He's, you notice the water. He's so if I go a little bit deeper into this card, and remember that this is my interpretation of it. Everybody's got different ideas of what the Rider-Waite deck represents. And Wands is fire, and it's also about it can be about commerce, and it can be about building. It can be about work and opportunities. So there's opportunities to build, and it's not just an opportunity to build. What I'm getting intuitively right now is it's opportunity to build a bridge. It's an opportunity to utilize all of the forces that you have at your disposal in a new way. So what are you building? Set the intention on what you desire to build. And this is a really, use the momentum, again, of this weekend to create. So if you've already been building something, you want to look at, is this architecturally sound, what I've been building? Is this going to hold water, right? Or is this going to stop the water? And is there something that I need to do to fortify the foundation? So if you have already been building, that's what you want to focus on, setting the intention that you're building your foundation on brick instead of sand, right? And then if you're wanting to build something, you may have ideas this weekend that will take you to the next level, or you may be rethinking what you've been building, if that makes sense. So I want to pull, I'm going to take a drink of water, and I'm going to pull a clarifying card around that. And I have to put my glasses on. Someone's making a comment I can't see. Oh, someone's stated that bridges have been popping up in their meditation practice. That's beautiful. So if you recognize what a bridge is symbolically, and of course it's going to mean something a little bit differently for you, but in general, it's a connection, right? We're connecting one thing to another. So what is that needs to be connected? And this also has to do with relationships. And Gemini too is like the two, right? It's a twin. So I would say, because there's so much Gemini energy in the astrology right now, that it's what can we do to bring the two together so that there's harmony, and that within that there's a building. Okay. So you're building something. And another thing I'm getting to this through this card intuitively too, is that you already have all the resources you need. Because some people are going to be like, well, I don't have everything that I need. And that's where you want to also recheck and be like, well, hold on a minute. Let's use a silly example. Well, I need to print this thing, but I don't have the paper. And it's like, well, you do have the paper. Go and look into, and Spirit will tell you too, Spirit will tell you the resources that you need. That's it. You have to practice it to be able to get the messages in real time like that. The best way to describe it. Because what happens is, like, a lot of times people will say, well, I need paper. I mean, this is such a silly example. And then, you won't think, well, maybe I have it somewhere else. But if you are aligned and you're in flow, you'll get the hit. Wait a minute, I have that. I remember having that. I remember I put that there, right? Instead of running out and going and getting it and then coming home and finding it 3 days later, right? We want to be able to get the messages also in real time. So there's this idea that you already have everything that you need. You already have the resources that you need. So maybe look under the bed or look into a space that don't make not having the resources the reason why you don't look forward or why you don't set your intention. You see, the resources will come. So don't use that as an excuse. You still can build with what you have. Okay, and then let's see what we want. Some clarification around that. So the Knight of Swords, because he's reversed, I think with the Gemini energy also too, because it's airy. Air likes to go fast. This is the fastest knight in the deck. He is. So it's to say you can go slow. Do you see? You can go, you don't have to, the building doesn't have to be, you don't have to be in a rush. I don't have to be in a rush to get it done. And that actually, if you're in a rush, that's going to be detrimental. So allow yourself to sort of, I'm just hearing milk everything that you're building. So do it very mindfully, and if you there's what I just set up behind me. I've had this office I've been here for a year and a half, and I just moved it around again. I still haven't gotten it to where I like it because I have a recording booth and I have all these little, it's like got these little stations in it, and I'm still trying to figure it out, but I'm doing it with the resources that I already have, you see, and that it doesn't, and it's like, it doesn't have to be done this weekend, Stace. It's okay. You don't have to be in a rush, and that remembering even rushing sometimes, well, especially now, be in the flow of it, because the rushing will be a detriment, okay? That it's not going to serve you to go fast. It's going to serve you actually to be mindful and not necessarily go slow, but just be mindful. And then let's see if I'll pull one more card and if there's any more clarification around what this is about. That's funny. The Temperance card is about balance and patience. Well, temperance is balance, right? And if you look, it's Archangel Michael, and he has his foot in the water and on the land, and both of the cups are serving each other. If you look, the water's going, right? There's no stop in the flow. So by slowing down, while you're building, as you slow down and you allow yourself to recognize, because a lot of times you'll feel rushed, and this goes back to also adrenalized energy. Like when we take action from adrenalized energy, we tend to go fast, right? We're in a hurry. We got to get there. When you take a deep breath in and you just allow yourself to go along the process, then that's when you achieve this. And that's when you actually get the opportunity to receive from the action, from the building. So by moving in a space that intention in the law of attraction, I feel, is more important than the action. So the setting of the intention is, so let's use myself as the example. So with these cards in mind. So I said I want to set the intention that I want to have deeper relationships that are more in balance, where there's giving and receiving is more in balance, right? Isn't that interesting that this card comes up? So what Spirit says is, okay, as you set that intention, you build that story, that reality, right, through your action, but you don't have to rush. And if you do rush, it actually is detrimental, because then you get yourself into situations that you wouldn't get yourself into if you thought it through. And then through the balance is where you get the reward. Okay, so it's about balance. It's also, I just heard, it's about decisions also. You can't build anything if you don't make a decision. right? You have to make a decision that you're going to do it. You have to make a decision that you're going to set an intention about a certain thing. So making the decision from a space of, and this also to me shows up as highest good. And another thing with the Archangel Michael energy is he's very forgiving. I just heard polite. That's funny. He comes in, he's like polite in kind of a cheeky way. But what it means is that there's a respect. I respect where you are. I don't judge where you are. And I want to show you how to protect yourself, because he's also a protection archangel. And how you protect yourself and how I can protect you is by you being mindful in what you're building. Okay? So if we want to reap the rewards of this energy. This is a high vibrationary energy. This card is a karma card. It's it's one of the I can't think of it right now. Sorry, my brain is going 100 miles an hour. Anyway, this is a high card in the deck. It's a good card. In order to get the goods, in order to get that energy of connecting with Archangel Michael, feeling balanced, feeling like the cups are both full, feeling like what you want in your desires, you have to be mindful and go slow and recognize what you're building. Okay? So I'm going to also pull a card for crystal. I'm going to pull a crystal oracle card to see what else Spirit wants us to know for the weekend energy. And then I just want to remind you that if you want to do a one-on-one session with me, there's links in my bio, or you can go to stacyjustice.com, and I also have free resources there, and I'll be here again on Monday. So let's see what the crystals have to say today. This is a Colette Baron Reed deck. I think I have, I don't know if I have all of her decks, but I should if I don't, because they're amazing. And I love the way she explains things too. I love the writing. The writing is beautiful. The illustrations are beautiful. And I just dig the vibes. All right, let's see. Which crystal's coming through? Malachite. I don't have any malachite. So malachite, interesting, just as we look at it, is green, which is heart-centered. Green, the chakra of the heart is green. So let's see what malachite has to offer us today. So the essential meaning of malachite is clarity of thought and emotions, the right use of intellect, integrating thoughts and intuition. It's so funny because it's pretty much what we talked about. All right, I'm going to read that again. Clarity of thought and emotion, the right use of intellect, integrating thoughts and intuition. Overthinking can make you feel like you are starting to lose it, but malachite spirit has appeared to let you know that there is a difference between unproductive ruminating and taking the time to apply logic that can help you make sense of what you know. Reasoning with clarity means the right use of your intellect as you consider all the evidence. This is so Gemini. It's also very Aquarian. All the evidence you have encountered. This includes evidence produced by opening yourself to messages from conscious universe through your first sense, intuition. So interesting, because I just said earlier, right, about how intuition is the one thing that we have that no one can take away from us. It's our first sense. I'm going to receive that one. Your reasoning powers are at their peak right now. Remember this, you guys. Remember this weekend. Remember this 2 days after. When there's something that comes up that you may be questioning yourself, say, wait a minute. My reasoning powers are at their peak right now. I can make this decision. So let go of any old beliefs that would make you doubt. Doubting, there's no reason to doubt ourselves. We have everything. So like it was the Dorothy, Wizard of Oz, you had it all inside of you, and that's really the truth. We just have to know it. We have to connect with it, get to know what it feels like so that we can bring it about when we need it. right? So that we know how to do that. And that's through practice. So, but this weekend, and I agree with this, because there is a heightened sense of that. The thoughtfulness and and maybe you'll have insights that you're like, wow, I didn't see it from that way before. And I feel that that's really connected to what's going on with this new moon energy. So your reasoning powers are at a peak right now. So let go of any old beliefs that would make you doubt. Malachite's spirit message is to trust that you are smart enough to sort through all the information before you. And to be sovereign, right? To be discerning. All of this information, I'm going to trust that what I'm choosing is what is actually best for me. So funny how we a lot of times don't know what's best for ourselves. We can't make a choice for what's best for us. And when we don't know what's best for us, it's because we don't have our self-empowerment together. We don't have good self-concept. So you can do self-empowerment work, which I'm pointing at the self-empowerment chakra, which is right at the base of the sternum. And if you want to do just a really simple exercise is when I always like to do things right before I go to sleep at night, right when I wake up in the morning, because that twilighty energy, we're actually in a theta state, which is a state of hypnosis. So our mind is more open to new concepts, right? And to implementation of those things. So it's a really great time for affirmations. It's a great time to vision what you desire. Again, the half hour right before you go to sleep, that's the worst time to worry. And it's also the worst time to watch news because your subconscious, we don't want to take that in. So I always set intentions. I always, at night, saying prayers. I mean, that's really what that's about, is being grateful for the day, being grateful for what's happened for the day so that I can sleep through the night. And then when I wake up in the morning, I set intentions on what I desire for the day. And that I trust and know that that my self-empowerment energy is there. So if you just do the challenge with a lot of people is that I'll tell a person, I can feel that your self-empowerment chakra's off. And then a lot with people that have issues, we'll call them issues with their chakra system, especially the lower chakras, it's because they're in their head all the time. So they're overthinking a lot. So all the energy's up here, right? Well, to tell a person that's an overthinker to stop thinking is tough. And also, I don't want to have a person who's an overthinker having to think more. So the easier the meditation is, or the easier the way that you connect is better. So if you just imagine, because the self-empowerment chakra is yellow, if you can just imagine that and I imagine it as like a bright sun. There's a yellow orb that's spinning that has energy, and you can imagine it. I mean, and you can kind of like, what does it look like? What would it look like? See how your body aligns, how your mind and your imagination align with what it feels like in the system. And then you just imagine that it's bright. Imagine a bright yellow light, and imagine it brightening and brightening and getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And just that alone, because you're acknowledging your self-empowerment center, is going to align you energetically in a new way and in a way that's more grounded. Okay, so that's an easy exercise to do. If you guys have any questions, DM me, check me out, wherever on my website, whatever. Anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful weekend. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you guys next week.